The Jamestown S'Klallam Tribal Reservation is located on the southern shore of Sequim Bay on the North Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, about 2.5 hours by car and ferry from downtown Seattle. It is here that the Jimmy-Come-Lately Creek runs through Jamestown S'Klallam tribal land as it drops from its source in the Olympic Mountains and winds down into Sequim Bay. The landscape appears pristine, with the forest-covered mountains and the deep blue of the bay, but since the late 1800s, the Jimmy, as local people call it, has undergone a complete transformation from its natural state. The creek has been relocated, channelized, and straightened, and a logging operation with a storage yard, shingle mill, and log pilings operated on its banks until the early 1990s. In 1981, the Jamestown Band of the S'Klallam Indian Tribe achieved federal recognition. The tribe purchased a 2-acre plot close to a historic Jamestown village on the south shore of Sequim Bay and designated it as their reservation. They built a tribal center and began to acquire lands adjacent to their reservation. The land holdings grew from the original 2 acres to over 1,000 acres by 2010. In 2001, the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe purchased an old log yard near their tribal center. The property included uplands and tidelands, and, unfortunately, more than 100 creosote-treated pilings that now occupied valuable tidelands that were once part of the Jimmy-Come-Lately estuary, which had historically been rich eelgrass and mudflat habitat supporting shellfish, salmon, and waterfowl. The log yard property contained roads that had been built across the estuary and salt marshes of the Jimmy-Come-Lately Creek. The estuary no longer functioned as a nursery for migrating salmon, or a haven for waterbirds, eelgrass, and shellfish.
My name is Randy Johnson, and I'm a habitat restoration planner with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. And I'm standing on what was once the bed of Jimmy-Come-Lately Creek, where water used to flow and salmon used to spawn right where I'm standing at the moment. One New Year's Eve, a heavy rainstorm blew through, caused flooding all over the Olympic Peninsula. And someone said, yeah, and this isn't the first time this has happened either. This creek requires routine maintenance dredging. Lower Jimmy-Come-Lately Creek is inhabited by imperiled summer chum salmon, which are listed for protection under the Endangered Species Act. They would spawn in this section of Jimmy-Come-Lately Creek. So this cycle of the creek filling in and then flooding and being dredged back down was really bad for these imperiled salmon too. You know, I think if we're ever going to break this cycle that nobody likes, we're going to have to restore the creek to its estuary. So we speculated, how in the heck can that be done? Well, at the time, the Washington State University's Extension Service had a program where they would connect landowners with governmental agencies for the purpose of engendering good stewardship of creeks and rivers here in S'Klallam County. That was the beginning of the Jimmy-Come-Lately ecosystem restoration. Landowners formally requested that the tribe and the agency folks form a technical committee of scientists, engineers, planners, figure out how to do this, how to restore this ecosystem down here, figure out where the money was going to come from, and then the landowners would support that group and would restore this ecosystem.
My name is Byron Rote, and I'm the Habitat Program Manager at Jamestown S'Klallam Tribe. This project really benefited from its bottoms-up approach. We worked to resolve a community problem of flooding that the landowners next to the creek were experiencing. And the resolution of that problem also served to recover fish populations as well. So the restoration project really was driven from the bottoms up, driven by a community need, which always makes for a much stronger project. So we had this vision of undevelopment to remove the human infrastructure and stressors, restore natural processes. The end result of this project was a successful project. It was a big project, one of the biggest in Puget Sound at the time. We spent 4 years doing restoration work, 4 summers, many years in preparation, planning for it. And there's a lot of projects, actually large-scale projects like this that are going on right now, and we felt it was very important to get the word out. What were our problems? What were our lessons learned? And so with EPA funding, we were able to write a lessons learned report, which has been well received by the restoration community. But you know, the interesting thing was this was not a tribe's project. This was a community project, really. There was so many folks involved that it really had that community imprint on it. And that's really another lesson learned, is it's on these large-scale projects, you have to get everybody involved. One agency, one government cannot make all those decisions for other people. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems down the road.
Hi, I'm Kurt Grinnell from the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. My Indian name is S'Klallam, and I'm a tribal councilman here at Jamestown. I'm also the Natural Resource Policy Coordinator here. Jamestown's been involved with several watershed projects throughout the years in the Dungeness watershed. And it was in the 1990s that the tribal leadership here in Jamestown realized that we had some real problems right here near our reservation in the Jamestown Creek and its estuaries. And so at that time, the Jamestown tribe decided to go ahead and take leadership role on getting the meetings together and getting the people together and the money, the funding for this project. In 1999, we only had 7 fish return, summer chum return to the creek. So at that time, they were listed as threatened. Well, by 2004, after much work and dedication by the partnerships, we finally were able to get some fish back to the stream. We had 1,700 back, which is a monumental proportion compared to what we had before. In 2009, fact is, we've had over 2,500 fish return. So that's really been an accomplishment. On July 8, 2005, we had what's called a first salmon ceremony. And what's significant about that, it was all the partners were invited to come over to the mouth of Jamestown Creek and participate in this event that hasn't taken place in well over 100 years. And we were all able to celebrate together with all the hard work and dedication. We celebrated together the accomplishment and the restoration of the stream. You know, this really showed that the Jamestown tribe can take a project, a complicated project with all its inherent problems, and really see it through to the end. They've really taken a great leadership role. We have great leadership that hires great people, and they've worked very hard on this project. And today we have a great run of fish coming back, and we're very proud of that.
My name is Lynn Mensch, and for many years I worked for the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe in shellfish and water quality, environmental health, and public health. My role for this Jimmy Come Lately project focused on the log yard, both acquiring all the tidelands for shellfish and also removing the creosote pilings, which were a serious water quality concern we had. The specific issue we had here was the Jamestown Creek was restored, the estuary was restored, the tidelands were purchased, and we were stuck with more than 100 heavily creosoted pilings that had been left over from the log yard. And we needed to get rid of them somehow. So we applied for an EPA Brownfields grant, used the EPA Brownfields money specifically to remove the pilings. Once we were awarded the grant, removed the pilings successfully, and they were taken to a disposal site actually in the state of Oregon, which is equipped to receive creosote piling waste. One thing that might be interesting is the way we were successful in applying for the EPA Grant Brownfields project. The way we were successful in applying for the grant was that we did have economic development because we were going to be creating a new harvest opportunity for our shellfish harvesters, and also new ceremonial and subsistence harvesting opportunity, which has an economic development. But another criteria for brownfields grants is green space. And we said we're not creating green space, we're creating blue space. So that in addition to the benefit to tribal members, there's a strong community benefit for kayaking and bird watching and all the other activities which can go into a beautiful piece of water which is not obstructed with hundreds of creosote pilings.
When the project was completed in 2004, tribal citizens were able to harvest shellfish in the tidelands of the former log yard. This proved to be an added bonus to the community.
Fish and shellfish have always been their traditional diets. This is what they have had as their resource. So that over the last few years, with the more access that we have had to harvesting and getting back into our native foods, and that's largely in part due to our natural resources department, who have been so diligent in bringing back the fish and the shellfish for people. And then of course our health programs that we have has lowered our diabetes down from the national average of other American Indians. I think the national average of diabetes in American Indians is 15%, where Jamestown we're now at 8%. So I think that that's quite a significance in the change that we have seen with our people getting back into using the shellfish in their traditional diet.
By 2006, the estuary had been undeveloped, the creek relocated to its more natural bed, the log road, fill, and pilings had been removed, and the area planted with native vegetation. The summer chum had returned to the creek. In 2004, the number of spawning salmon had increased to 1,700. The shellfish were being harvested by tribal members, and blue space had been created. But the Jimmy had one more secret to reveal.
One of the other surprises that we encountered was that we actually unearthed a shellfish midden. And a midden is an archaeological area that were used by Native Americans in the past, and we didn't expect to find it. We came across it and all of a sudden saw a tremendous amount of shellfish and charcoal pieces, etc., that led us to believe that there was something there that we should not be excavating. We called out the tribal cultural resource officer. She agreed with us. We then brought in archaeologists and were able to modify the grading plan of the project to be able to avoid any further impact to the midden.
I think one of the best things, heartwarming things that I come away with is the positive feedback that we are continue to get from the community. This is a very visible project. Folks driving by on 101 or walking on the Olympic Discovery Trail. And we get comments all the time about how they like the project and really thank us for doing it. And that is very warming to hear that feedback. So I'd like to, say that, hey, come on out and check out this project. We've got the Olympic Discovery Trail you can walk on. You can see it, see for yourselves. Bring your binoculars if you like to watch birds. There's plenty out here. So come out and see us. Thank you.